Hey guys, happy Sunday. I wanted to share a quick word of encouragement because I've been doing my videos on Sunday, so let's call it Encouraging Sunday. So I wanted to talk a little bit with you today about resiliency, about perfecting the ability to bounce back. I wanted to talk to you about how to be resilient. This word has more recently came into my sphere, and I can only teach on stuff that I'm learning myself right now. So it isn't as if I'm doing these teachings just to teach you. I'm learning, so in essence, then I'm turning around and I'm giving it out. So resiliency, that's what he's teaching me on. It's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It's toughness. It's the ability to spring back into shape like a rubber band. Resilience is the quality of being able to adapt to stressful life changes and then bouncing back from the hardship. Resilience is a response to tragedy or crisis that allows us to stay on the move despite the loss. No one wants to get stuck. So I did a little bit of searching, and in 2020, there were 1.2 million suicide attempts nationwide. And of those, 46,000 were successful. So obviously, we are living in a world that needs a vast amount of hope and a world that needs to learn to be resilient. So, and I had a heavy week last week, walking through a tough and an ongoing situation. And I thought that I would talk about how I handle loss and rejection and, dealing with a situation that is completely out of my control. And it's one thing to share my victories on Facebook, but it's another to be able to strive to be vulnerable in my walk with Christ and genuine with both my wins as well as my struggles. So I wanted to, just talk about how do I deal personally with repetitive, intrusive thoughts and even negative thoughts about someone else or someone else's spiritual state. How do I deal with worry? So the first key to resiliency is in my faith in the Lord. It's Proverbs 3:6 says, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall make your paths straight." Then Isaiah 40:29 says, "He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength." So even if we stumble and the enemy knocks us down, we must call out to the Lord. Listen, I talk to God all day long. We must be open and vulnerable with the Lord and tell Jesus how we're feeling. It says in the Bible to cast all your cares upon the Lord, for he cares with you. So it's being open and real with him. I lay it all on God. I tell him the good, I tell him the bad, I tell him exactly how I'm feeling. And it's acknowledging the hurt and the stress that the weakness to God, our weakness, it's acknowledging it to him, to be transparent with him. God, I can't do this. I need you. And this also keeps us from walking in pride and trying to do it ourselves. So there's a few things that we should be praying for on a regular basis. We should pray for strength for the journey, as well as strength for the visions and the dreams that God has given us. So we also need to pray for resiliency and reboundability. I heard this word the other day, and I just loved it, reboundability. It's the ability to rebound, and rebounding is a gift. We need to plead our case to God based on his character, based on who he is, because it's not for him that I'm praying, right? I'm praying for strength for me to make it through this life. So this is to renew our faith and restore our soul is the whole reason that we pray for strength to endure. And we must declare in times of being overwhelmed that he is faithful and he is righteous. So there's power in the power in words, obviously we know that, but like there's power in thoughts. So the fact that we are praying and we're sending this out to God, it's a request for help from him, and he always hears. So I found this Bible verse, and I'm gonna read almost for time's sake. I'm not gonna read the entire thing, but it's Psalm 143, and I would encourage you to read it yourself. But I'm gonna read a few passages out of it because I think it speaks volumes. Hear me, O Lord, and listen to my plea. Answer me because you are faithful and righteous. My enemy has chased me and knocked me to the ground and forces me to live in darkness like those in the grave. I'm losing all hope and I'm paralyzed with fear. Come quickly, Lord, and answer me, for my depression deepens. Don't turn away from me or I will die. Let me hear of your unfailing love each morning, for I trust in you. Show me where to walk, for I give myself to you. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord. I run to you. Hide me. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your gracious spirit lead me forward on a firm footing. For the glory of your name, O Lord, preserve my life. Because of your faithfulness brings me out of this distress. In your unfailing love, silence my enemies. And I'm reading out of the NLT translation, which I really like. And so have you lost hope? Have you been like paralyzed with fear? Take it to God. We don't serve a God who is unwilling to send forth help. He always sends help, and he always notices. He knows what we're going through. He acknowledge it to him. We're not going to tell him anything that's going to catch him off guard. He always sends help. Martin Luther talks about what he calls his dark night of the soul as he struggled with his inability to please God. And today's word would be depression. While on the surface, we know we don't have to just roll over and take depression. Sometimes we may be in a weakened state or in a vulnerable time, and it just comes. It comes in. Sometimes the enemy will creep in unaware, and before we know it, we're knocked down. So here's the beautiful thing. We may get knocked down, but we don't have to stay there. He's faithful, and God promises to make firm our steps, right? So when we're doing these declarations, like in Psalm 143, we are declaring it to God, but we are also declaring it to our own self, to renew our faith and our strength. Yes, God, you make firm my path, my steps. So we need to talk to him. And it makes me think about this story I taught on a couple weeks ago when Peter gets out of the boat, right? It's a storm, and Peter gets out and says, Jesus, can I come to you? And Jesus says, come. And he's walking, looking to Jesus, and all of the storm is like raging around him, and he takes his eyes off of Jesus and onto the storm, and immediately he starts to sink under the water, and he has to call out, Lord, save me. And so, when we take our eyes off Jesus and put them on the storm, we sink, we go under, we get overwhelmed, we get covered up. So it's always important to keep our focus. We must keep our eyes on him, and we must talk to him because he hears all. Sorry. Every cry, every prayer, every tear, nothing goes unnoticed by him. And I guess I know I've said that in another video because I feel like I have it on all caps in my paper here of my notes because it's so important. I think it is to realize that nothing goes unnoticed by him. He sees and hears all, right? So struggling is part of this life. It's it's out of that struggle that we're going to get strength. If we don't struggle for a season, we're not going to have a spiritual backbone, because struggle produces endurance. Every single adversity you're facing in life, every single storm, every single fire, when we hand it over to God, He will use it for our better good, for our better learning. He will use it to better grow us, right? To mature us. So resilience doesn't mean we don't care about life changes or what's going on, but resilience is the human heart's ability to suffer greatly and grow from it, and not get cold, not get calloused, not shut down, but to keep moving on. We cannot get stuck. A friend taught me earlier this year about suffering joyfully, and it was quite a foreign concept to me, as I like to suffer and complain, right? So complaining, though, it doesn't produce growth. And that does not mean that I don't still complain to God. I do. I still tell God every single feeling, every single thought. I take it to Him, and I try to be as transparent as I can with Him. But the key is that we cannot dwell there. We have to be able to move on. So here are a few strategies on how resilient people handle adversity. Resilient people, they never give up hope, right? They always keep in mind, hold on, I gotta switch this paper out. A lot of people find it easy to talk on camera and remember everything. I do not. I have to write it all down. So resilient people never give up hope. So we must keep in mind that there's always there's better days ahead. There's a future, right? There is a hope. There is something to look forward to, and we must hold tight to that. We must hold fast to that hope, and hold tight to it, because if when we lose our hope, that is a key time when the devil can set in and make you hopeless, right? So resilient people know suffering is a part of life. It's part of our human existence, and this type of understanding keeps us from like a victim mentality, a why me mentality. And instead of thinking like, oh, why me? Well, why not me? Who am I that I shouldn't suffer, right? Everybody suffers. So it's no one is exempt from this. It's part of living on this earth, and this is a hard earth plane to live on, right? So resilient people are really careful to what draws their focus. They have the ability to focus on things they can change, and not on the things that they cannot change. And this is vital, and it's a learnable skill. And I feel like it's grown in me over the last probably the last 7 years, but really even in the last year, is to be able to pick back up and keep going, right? Keep on keeping on. So, we can't lose what we have over what we've lost, right? We can be so focused on what we lost that we lose even what we do have. So, in psychology, it's called the benefit of finding. It's called a benefit of finding, and it's switching our focus to the good. So it's being deliberate to find the good and to not hold on to the bad, right? And resilient people consider all their actions and their thinking process. Is what I'm doing helping me, or is it harming me? Is our thought process helping or harming us? So when I would be hurt in the past, I would nurse my hurt, right? Not just for a few hours, not for a few days, not for weeks even. I mean, it could go on for months. I would hold on to the hurt. I would pet it. I would nurse it. I would kind of almost comfort myself with it, reliving the scenario in my mind. So I would always try to figure out the why for the hurt, right? Like, why did this happen? Always trying to figure it out. And sometimes we can't figure it out. Sometimes we can't figure out the why, but we have to switch our focus onto thoughts and activities, this did happen, now we move forward. And that would be partaking in activities that is helpful to us moving forward, right? Not reliving it in our head, literally being deliberate to switch our focus. So I just want to declare to you today that Jesus' voice is louder and bigger than any storm that you're facing. And I would encourage you to declare that to him today. And I'm going to leave you with this verse, which I marked already, and it is in James 1:2-5. Dear brothers and sisters, when trouble comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. That's what it's all about. It's all about growing. It's all about maturing. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete and needing nothing. And the promise, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God and he will give it to you. So I would just encourage everyone today is to take your cares to Jesus, because he's here and he listens and he loves you. And I hope everyone has a good day.